How good was it to have Rex back out there with you guys today?
Good, very good. Not only excited to have him back, he brought energy, he brought intensity today, which he usually does. So it was very good. Obviously we got to talk beforehand. Just good and happy. He's excited. Try to communicate with him all summer, which was hard to do in this situation. Just a reminder, no matter what happens in this situation, coaches value you as a player, they value you as an individual, and that was it. So excited to have him back.
How much more growth do you think there is in him?
I think a lot of growth. And we'll need some of that internal development. Yeah, I think his defensive game can continue to grow. Even with him, he's had some lapses in some of his play. I think he can improve his skating, which is very exciting. I think he's still very raw. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room for growth also in him.
You've talked about eventually wanting to see him and Simon together. What appeals to you about trying that out?
Not necessarily wanting them to get to there. I think it's something we'll look at in camp here as a potential within our top four there. Obviously, they're both long. They both can be very tough to play against defensively because of that length. Both have some instincts, and again, sometimes it's a feel on partners. And for me, a lot of that partner feel is just puck support. Some guys just have better feel and instincts with it. So we'll take a look at a lot of things, but that's one pair we want to see through camp.
With as a coach, and it's something where it's, I know the answer is to focus on everything on the team, but is it, how do you focus? And we all know what everyone gets paid, right? Like, and it's easy to set expectations. Like, how do you handle that as a coach? And like, you played with some guys who have, coached some guys who have had really big paydays. And like, what's the calculus for this guy's making enough money, he should be doing this or that and things like that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a reality of it. I think people are aware of it. I think maybe just knowing the individual. I think you ask the same of player 1 to player 23, and the teams that are successful, it looks the same accountability. I know that teams I've coached that have had great success, there wasn't much difference between player 1 and player 23. So maybe just knowing the person and whether it weighs on them or not, I think it's a reality of it, and just like any other individual, just being aware of it.
Mo, I think he played the toughest minutes in the NHL last season. Is that something you would like to ease on him, or do you want to?
Yeah, I got that question at the end of last year, and I know it's unique in him going into his RFA year, but I don't foresee that changing. Where we are as a team, how valuable he is, how he can handle top lines. I think part of our continued growth with points and wins over the last 2 years, why it's headed in the right direction, is because of that part of the game and be able to handle matchups. So I don't think that's going to change. I don't think, as long as he's here and with the Red Wings.
What kind of lineup are you going to ice tomorrow?
Decent. No, both. I just think the exhibition preseason game matrix is complicated because we end up with 5 games in 6 days, 3-3, which is certainly not ideal, especially with some of the objectives we want to accomplish in camp. So I think you're going to see a lot of mixed lineups, maybe a couple NHL experienced lines with a couple new guys. That's what we'll see tomorrow night.
Is that why a lot of the NHL lines, I guess, have stayed the same with the DeBrincat, Larkin, Kane, those kind of guys staying together for these practices?
No, maybe a little bit, but we had an opportunity today with a full practice for both groups to kind of put some guys together that we might foresee going forward. Obviously, we still expect a lot of competition in camp, so it'll kind of be dispersed starting tomorrow pretty evenly.
What do you hope carries over from Traverse City?
Some growth in our structure. I liked our intensity in Traverse City, so I'd like to keep that at a high. Obviously, your takeaways from that red-white game. There was some growth in it. There was some teaching today, puck play, which happens a lot. A lot of ill-advised turnovers that'll get us in trouble, which is understandable. So I just think you want to keep growing our game in every area.
With Tyler Mott, it seems like he's mostly been on the wing so far, but would you be comfortable with him at center as well?
I foresee him on the wing. I think with his experience, we could use him in many scenarios. I know Christian Fisher gave us some great minutes at center last year. Well, that was through some injury and where we were kind of at. So I think we foresee him helping us on the wing.
What made you want to put Austin Watson with that NHL group this morning?
His experience. I like the fact that he's already acclimated himself in the group. Things you don't see. I've really, challenged our group and our leadership group to be a lot more inclusive away from the rink. I think that leads to growing. And he got himself into the group and been part of that. So, there's going to be a cutoff somewhere. 13th forward. He got the good end of it today.
With some of these, the top picks, the top prospects like Casper, Nygaard, Danielson, would you like try and get them in as many
Yes.
games as possible?
100%. You talk about, I mentioned earlier, some things we want to accomplish within camp. There's a lot of them. There's structure, there may be some line chemistry, there's some special team looks, but getting those young guys opportunity in games. And that's why those 5 and 6, the 3 and 3, I don't mind it. It's just the reality of it. But it's going to be tough. We'd love to play those guys a ton, but you might be asking those guys to play some back-to-backs, some 3 and 4s down the stretch. But yes, we want to give all those guys some opportunity. You recall last year, Simon. We played Simon a ton, and we thought that was extremely valuable for him and his growth. So it'll be very similar for some of those young guys.
You fed off the Lions playoff, and you went through your own chase, and you're catching some Tigers.
Absolutely. Again, it's like a broken record. I'm with sports. Very excited today because my Buffalo Bills looked really good. So I had a little more jump in my step in the locker room. But Bills are in a good spot because last year Patrick Kane was half on board. I asked him to be more invested this year. No surprise, they're 3-0. But of course, I watch the Lions. They've made me fans. Obviously, Detroit's personal. We share the same ownership. Even some internal growth and beliefs and approaching some things. And it's been pretty cool what they've done. So I've kind of liked the Tigers. I lost my baseball team, the Expos, back in the day. So I've kind of been a free agent. And that logo D is tough not to like, so it's been pretty fun to watch.
Are there any specific things you might have taken from talking to some from the Tigers that you can apply as a hockey player?
Yeah, always. I think there's growth to things. I spent an entire summer of some personal growth. Going to Lions camp was part of it. I went to other NHL camps. Even seeing the Pistons there, we would talk shop a little bit. So of course, you're always growing. I know they have had a very good progressive view on their draft. They've had a very progressive, just baseball on a whole, analytics is a big part of it as we're trying to grow. Obviously, we're a fluid sport, so we're different, but of course, what a resource to be owned by the same group and kind of under the same umbrella to lean on those guys.
Kind of expanded on that note there, Tiger analytics stuff, and you guys have talked about figuring how it works. Like, when you're entering, as you figured this out, where does that kind of sit heading into this season for you, of where that tool kind of sits in your toolbox for analytics?
Well, analytics is just a reality of the game. You're going to have to move along with it. I still think it's very raw because our sport is so fluid. But it's like anything else in an organization, we challenge ourselves to be on the front end of it. And analytics is no different.
Starting tomorrow, is this the busiest time of the year for the coaching staff?
Yeah, of course. But you expect it, you plan on it, you plan around it, but it's exciting too. It's rinse and repeat, obviously. You're running 2 teams basically at once, and these fly in, fly out road trips. So, it's all part of it. It's, one of the more intense times of the season.
One more on Watson. I know it's always hard for the PTO guys, but does he kind of have some of those elements that you guys make?
Oh yeah, I think so. There's a lot to look at with that. Obviously, there's a cap scenario. We've worked our way to the cap, like most teams within the league. But of course, like we want to have a little of that element, but at the same time, we need the player to be able to help us. So there's a lot that will go into it. We'll give both our PTOs, Chason and Watson, a lot of opportunity in camp.
If I could ask a follow-up to the question I asked Sunday about the alternate captains, I'm curious, are you evaluating just the one open spot, or are you evaluating?
We're evaluating the whole thing. Letters don't really mean a whole lot to me. We're trying to build the core. We've asked 7, 8, 9, 10 guys in the past to be part of that group. So I think we're not necessarily reevaluating letters by any means. We're just evaluating. We're going to ask more of the group, and we're going to ask more from that leadership group too. And obviously we lost 2 important parts of that group with David Perron and Robbie Fabry. So we'll be looking for a lot of different angles on that.
How exactly do you train that leadership or teach those?
Yeah, there's a ton of it. I mean, it's Leventon stuff, but we work really hard on it. We've worked hard in the 2 years. I mean, it's no different. We walk in there, morning meetings, it's structure, it's practice, it's video, but we talk about that leadership too, and we talk with our group about it, and we have a lot of different tools with that.
Kind of just a quick follow-up, just popped in my head, because obviously Victor was just named the captain down in Tampa, and we've talked to you a lot about his growth, that you watched him grow as a player. When you look at him, just kind of his growth as a leader, and it became pretty obvious to everyone, he was going to be the next guy. What do you remember about watching him kind of establish his voice?
Unbelievable growth. He went from being a little shy, even when I got there, to he was the hardest working, demanding guy in practice. A lot of reasons that group got over a hump, but he was part of it, and I see that in some of our guys. I've been extremely impressed working with Dylan Larkin over the couple years. A lot of it's internal. We keep it internal, but he's not even the same person when it comes to his expectations of the group and him holding people accountable. So there's some similarities there. And we'd want other guys. Obviously, you guys talk about big contracts, what that means. We'd ask those type of guys too to start working their way through our leadership group too.